So I hit a rock bottom. So in 12 months, I actually lost the 1.5 down to $2,500 in the bank. And I remember it was a Thursday night because Thursday meant that payroll was due on Friday. And I went to the bank and said, don't deposit the checks. That's how bad. At this point, I've hawked my house and my car. And I have nothing left in the world, not even $1,000. I'm short payroll by $1,000 and I have no one to call. And so I remember just lying down in my bed and looking at the ceiling and like, it was just painful.
Hi, welcome to the...
Do it. Keep it in there. Yeah, it's all good. That's good stuff right
welcome
there.
to the Flat Bill Investors Podcast. I'm Josh Zaglowski.
I'm Zach Spencer, and we are happy on this episode to have himself, the girl dad, the network master, the networking guru. He is the self-proclaimed and notorious go-giver himself. We forgot the yeses. Okay, we're gonna try this again.
No, that's good. That was good. That was you were on a roll.
We
I was
got
like
Sean Finnegan.
I was
in the
like, I
house.
gotta meet
Okay,
this guy.
I'm changing my flat bill.
Yes.
Changing the
Love
flat
it.
bill. We're Tax Hive flat bills today.
Yeah.
We got Sean Finnegan. Sean, what's up, man?
Great to see you guys. It's an honor to be here.
We're happy to have you, man.
I love the
Mr.
flat bills.
Finnegan.
Yeah,
I love
Finnegan.
it.
yeah.
Thanks for being our first guest.
It's maiden voyage. I'm absolutely honored.
We're
I
on
appreciate
episode
it.
number 2, and this is an honor. I mean, because I've known Sean for, I want to say 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years. He was my boss.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I learned a lot. We were actually just talking right before about this book called DNAS, and a method I've learned, and I learned it from his company that he
The
had.
DNA
So,
selling method.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, you just barely started reading it, right?
Well, I started a long time ago, but I didn't make it very far. But I'm going to read.
He's into 10 pages.
I'm going to get back to page 11. Don't worry.
Well, the coolest thing, you mentioned about 5 to 10 things with Sean. I mean, he's many more of those things, but the couple that really hit me is the girl dad, because I met one of his daughters. I love family guys, and family people. And that was always been cool. And then the Go-Giver. This guy, if you have not read the book Go-Giver, number 1, you got to read it.
Yeah.
And Sean takes that book and puts it on steroids, throws gas on the fire type of stuff. Cause I was just joking with him right before this I'll just get a random text, like a group text from Sean and some guy. He's like, hey, John, you need to meet Josh. Go get it. Like, okay, what does John do?
Yeah, no, I love that.
It's fun.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, oh yeah, he could totally help me and I could help him.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
I always use the term, like we've talked about, comparing notes, and Sean's a master at it. So, kudos to you for that. Where did you learn something like that?
Early on there was a big why. I felt like I was not a good networker, and I feel like it crippled my business at one point. So I was like, I've got to get comfortable being very uncomfortable.
Did you get around people that you looked up as networkers, and you were like, oh my gosh,
Yeah, it's just everything I'd read is like get the right people on the bus first and build relationships. And then you kind of look at some of these old entrepreneurs and old photos. Rarely are they alone.
Yeah.
You got Steve Jobs, but you got Wozniak there. You got all these, they've actually built incredible relationships that change the world.
Relationships are a big thing. Before you became a go-giver, because I'm asking this question because I'm thinking about myself. Were you selfish? Were you pretty selfish at business? Because I was very selfish until I actually learned that concept.
I felt like I was so in my early stage of building the business, I was felt like I was overwhelmed. And I was like, why would I take time from, I have knee deep in crocodiles trying to figure this out.
My time's
I
way
can't
more
do
valuable.
that.
Yeah.
I can't go and I would love to be able to do that possibly, but I'm just too busy to do that. And that was the one reason why I failed.
You didn't hit that hump of success because you had something that was blocking you back with that of not giving back.
Yeah, I was going to say, let me just ask you then, for you, was there like a pivotal moment or a book you read or something that happened, a conversation that made you all of a sudden go, oh, I'm realizing now that
or a
as
spouse.
my spouse
is my big thing.
So what was your thing that really was the paradigm shifter for you?
I definitely had a paradigm shift. So my first business was in 2009. And I came from zero money. So my dad was a bookstore manager for 40 years.
Oh, wow.
So, my mom was actually my original inspiration because she was the side hustle mom trying to raise 5 kids on a bookstore manager pay. She was like everything. And I was also door-to-door sales. I'd sell stuff and everything else. So I decided in 2009, which I think we've all been through 2009.
mortgage
It was
meltdown.
like the worst.
We were there.
Yeah, worst freaking time in history. I wish someone had told me back then, hey, don't do this.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
I
yeah.
decided at that moment to start the business that we ultimately worked together in, which was a live event business. We were in a sandwich shop, me and two gentlemen that were my partners. And I had this spreadsheet, and we were building a spreadsheet, and we had no office. So we were in a hoagie place. And I remember putting in all your projections. You're like, okay, if we did this, we did that. You start building
We've all
this
made
thing.
those performance.
Right?
Oh yeah.
And according to the spreadsheet, I would become a millionaire in a short period of time.
Sure. And these guys already had a success. They already had a successful business. So now you're coming in and you're some sales guy that's been selling door to door and stuff.
Yeah.
Why do you think they were intrigued by you to be a partner?
Yeah. So I think it's like when you come out with enough energy and excitement, you can get people on board. If you have good vision, you're like,
Yeah.
hey, look what I'm going to do. We're going to make an impact, and you can actually get out and pitch.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I
You
think
can get
passion-
people on board.
It's not the mentality of fake it till you make it. It's really having that confidence. They
Yeah.
probably saw a lot of confidence.
For
in what you
sure.
had.
I had the confidence. I felt like,
I've met with a handful of different entrepreneurs, like who's not really faking it, like all the time.
Yeah.
Like you're almost always kind of like trying to wing it a little bit, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the thing is too is you kind of see right through. For me now, it's a lot of things learned. You kind of see like if someone's kind of giving you the fakie, or faking it.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
So because confidence is a big thing.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's like you as an entrepreneur, you got to build that. Doesn't happen overnight. It's a learned concept. When you just said you met my boys, I've told them to really let's work on your confidence. We've talked about the book, Value Creation Kid. If you're a parent that maybe wants your kid to create value to other people, this is the ultimate book to listen to.
Yeah.
And I say listen to or read.
Let me just ask you,
Yeah.
Sean, like you're the girl dad, like for the
Yeah.
first time, like I said, hey, how should I introduce you?
Yeah.
The first thing you said
Right.
is girl dad.
Girl dad.
Like, that's
You
the
better
number
believe it.
one thing. So
Yeah.
your girls ought to feel pretty like special. 'cause
I
they're
love
the
it. And I
first
bring
thing.
them to as many things as I possibly can. That's why you
Yeah.
see every chance I get, because I want her to learn by osmosis from
Yeah.
successful people
So-
and
so
see
what's-
ballers. And
Yeah. So what's one thing that you are teaching? So how many kids do you have?
So I have 3 girls.
So 3 girls.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are the things then from your experiences, or even taking this this meeting in the bread store? Where were we at?
Yeah,
Where
right.
we at in the
So-
subway? In the
So I'll
Ford
tell you,
subs?
yeah. So I'm in this Subway place, and and also as a father, as you guys know, you feel like, hey, I'm going to go earn money for my family and give them a life I didn't have as a bookstore manager's son and everything else. So they were always like, they're all of us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have this little child, and you're like, I want to do everything in my power to give them a great life.
You don't want them
right?
to suffer,
Yeah,
even though suffering is a good thing.
yeah.
We know
Yeah.
that.
So I get this spreadsheet done, and then I know that I need to get money now. So I do the first time I've never raised money in my life. And so I meet with 60 investors, and I'm pre-revenue, by the way. I haven't created $1, and I'm like, I got this thing. I'm ready to go. Let's go.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I'm sure people listening, and if there's an entrepreneur out here that's like
Yeah.
in that same stage,
Yeah.
they've gotten through the pro forma,
Yes.
they're going, oh my gosh, this could be awesome.
Yep.
How did you get in front of 60 investors?
Yeah, so it's literally a network. I had a buddy who was a private equity guy, and I was like, "Hey, can you help me out?" And just like it is with everything, building relationships is like you're 1 or 2 intros away from getting exactly what you want. So he was like,
that all the
I think he felt bad for me or something, but he's like, "Hey, I'll introduce
Either
you to some
way,
guys,"
yeah.
and I'm a scrappy dude getting in front of these guys.
Yeah.
right.
It's funny because I started a company called ERC Specialists, and I always tell people is because I had the vision like what you had,
Yeah.
and I had the confidence, and I said one day, you know what, I am going to text over 100 people today. The same. I had 2 texts. I had one that went to what I call affiliates, and one went to business owners. And I just copy and pasted it. It's funny. I only received probably about 10 to 15% response out of 100. I had
Yeah.
people that would text me a couple of days later, and they'd say, "Is Josh in an MLM? Is he in a multi-level right now?" It's like that. But you
Right.
got to have the vision.
You got to
and
go out
confidence,
and
like,
do
you know
it.
what? I'm just going to
Yeah.
go do it.
That's right.
And I'm going to take 90 no's.
Yeah.
But those 10 people are
Yeah.
going to make a difference to
I
me.
mean, how did you feel on that first text? Nervous?
Very nervous. It was
Yeah.
hard. You always wonder, like, is it the right text, the wrong text?
Yeah.
Like in your case, 60 people.
Yeah.
How many people said, I want in?
So, so I'm like, hey, here's my thing. I haven't created $1. Give me $250,000, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to raise 1.5. So I had 23 of them say yes.
Wow. Good
And
for
the
you.
first one I remember just shocked. It was like, I
Oh.
think you just said yes.
Yeah.
And so I was able to raise, it took like 6 months, but I was able to raise 1.5 million in 6 months time.
It's great.
With 23 of them. So I got a lot of no's too. Like, hey, this isn't a fit.
Yeah. What is that? 37 no's.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
and you probably had met with more than 60 people after that. I was just that one time, or
This was really to launch my business. So here I am. I have a spreadsheet and I start hiring some really good individuals.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a team, I have my spreadsheet, and I have 1.5 million
yeah,
from a son of a bookstore manager. And according to my LinkedIn, I was a CEO. So like you go back to that day,
yeah,
I had 1.5 in my operating account. Technically, I had $1 million. And so I was like, I felt like I was literally the king of the world, and I'd done something impossible and everything else. And unfortunately, there's the second part of the story, right? Which is Kevin O'Leary. I work with Kevin closely, and he says, "In business, poo-poo happened," right? And it's true. And we all know this. This is what we signed up for. With the pickleball and everything else, we all have stuff.
It's so interesting,
right?
Even just today, like my wife, because we work together, so it's been a really interesting dynamic also. But it was, hey, like we're working these long hours and like not going places with sacrificing these hours to grow this business,
right?
And today I was like, hey, we made this bed.
Yes.
Like we chose this.
Signed up for that.
And on the days that you want to just like hang it up is when like, okay, we're on the cusp of something, because it's not going to be this hard. So yeah.
And I love it that you're talking about it, because most people don't. You hear about the success principle of this, and you hear about the great stories, which I love too, but it's this stuff.
Yeah.
It's the grind. It's like, oh, hey, Dad, my friends are at Disneyland. Should we, it's like,
should we go on a trip? And we're like, we got to work.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember taking my daughter during, building this business and having all my problems. I took her to Bear in the Big Blue House live, and I didn't have, I was like, I'm not paying $20 for that. It was like outrageously expensive to do that. Right. And those kind of things, right?
Yeah.
You have to sacrifice and you go through hard stuff. And for me, so it was a live event business. Like for instance, David Bach, I don't know if you remember him. We had him pretty early on. He wrote the book, The Automatic Millionaire.
Okay.
We paid him $70,000.
Wow.
For a 30-minute presentation. And my direct mail marketing hit 2 weeks after the preview event.
Okay.
The big event.
Okay.
So 2 weeks after.
Oh, that's not good.
So
That's
I have a chair. I've booked a venue, paid a ton of money for that. I've given him 70 grand, and I have 50 people in the room.
Yikes.
And here he pulls up in his limb. I mean, I literally want to dig a hole and jump in and bury myself. It is the most humiliating experience.
Yeah.
And him getting out of it and seeing your crowd and just like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He
Yeah,
gets
well,
up
the thing
there.
is too, is I've always said is like when you are raising money and you have other people's money, that means more to you than your own money. So when I don't know about your in that aspect, but for me, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I got these other people's money. I just spent 70 grand here.
100%. You feel all the pressure of that.
You're like you just said 5 minutes ago, you're on cloud 9, at 1.5, but then you're like, wait, I need to move this money.
Right.
So
I got to make this money multiply.
Yeah.
for
So
them,
tell me,
right?
we're going to talk about this a lot throughout a lot of these episodes, but we already did in our intro.
Yeah.
So you got the wins and the times to learn.
Yeah.
So pivoting from that moment when you go, okay, what did you take away from that?
Yeah. So I hit a rock bottom. So in 12 months, I actually lost the 1.5 down to $2,500 in the bank. And I remember it was a Thursday night, because Thursday meant that payroll was due on Friday. And I went to the bank and said, don't deposit the checks. That's how bad. At this point, I've hawked my house and my car. And I have nothing left in the world, not even $1,000. I'm short payroll by $1,000, and I have no one to call. And so I remember just lying down in my bed and looking at the ceiling, and like, it was just painful.
Oh yeah.
Because next day I had to meet with people and say, hey, sorry, I can't pay you. You had faith and confidence in me, but I can't pay you.
Yeah.
And so went to lunch the next day, and we're sitting around at lunch like, hey, have we turned every corner or rock? And I get a call from my controller. She's like, hey, I was digging in the petty cash safe, and I found $3,000 cash.
Wow.
Right. So I was like, hang on to that cash. And I screeched my tires, literally drove back. And as we remember from college age, that cash is king. It clears instantly. So I went right to the bank, went into the teller. I gave him the 3,000 and cleared those checks. And I still have them just engraven in my mind of those checks, and went back to the office and made payroll like by $1,000, $2,000.
Yeah.
And it was that day I said that was my pivot point. I said, okay, everything I've read, I have failed, and I have to admit that I failed on my own. And the only way I'm going to build this up is if I build relationships and business.
Yeah.
And I started that Friday.
Yeah.
I actually made phone calls like you talked about. Everyone's contacts, You have great contacts already.
Yeah.
We just don't nurture them. So I started calling.
Yeah.
Smiling and dialing.
Yeah, and I got introduced to one gentleman, and he is very successful and extremely knowledgeable. And we actually went to sushi, and he wrote out some stuff on the tablecloth. I took it home, put it on my office wall, and started doing the stuff. And then I ultimately partnered with him. And then he brought all his relationships to the table. We went on this run and paid everyone in back, the investors plus 20%.
Gotcha.
Wow, that's
Wow.
great.
Over the next several
Yeah,
years.
that's
And that's
amazing.
about when I met you, is kind of when I went through all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you transitioned from that company. You got into Tax
Yeah.
Hive.
Represent.
So where did that come into play?
Yeah. So
Same partners?
yeah. So yes, I don't know if you met Kevin O'Leary. I think you might have moved. I think you moved on at that point, but we started traveling with Kevin a lot.
And you're talking about from Shark Tank.
Gotcha. Kevin from Shark
Mr.
Tank.
Wonderful.
Yeah, Mr. Wonderful. Yep.
Himself.
So we started traveling with him. So I've been in many kitchens in the belly of hotels and getting him ready for stages over many, many events. And so we got to know him really well. Obviously, COVID kicks in. No one's doing that. So we're like, we reach out
I
to
was just
him.
going to say, you
Yeah.
said that 2009 was
Right.
a bad time to start that. And I was like, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
there was one other time
Yeah.
that might have been a little harder.
How about going
to-
through a time where you cannot be with people in person and then you're trying to do a live event,
Yeah.
right? Not
Is
a
he
good
a cool
combo.
dude behind the curtain?
He's incredible.
Is he?
Yeah. So,
He's
you
Mr.
know,
Incredible.
yeah. Mr. Wonderful. So
Oh,
he,
Mr. Wonderful.
yeah,
That's my,
yeah.
oh, Mr.
but-
Incredible.
but-
is the other
yeah,
guy.
Mr.
Apparently I've got kids.
So
I've
I've
got
been-
Disney on the
I
mind.
get
been-
along with a lot of people, and I think I would definitely get along with them. But
Yeah.
you always seem like, I'm going to squash you like a bug, and he
Yeah.
does all that stuff.
Yeah, so I've been with him a lot. Like I went once. He spoke at Harvard, and his computer blew up, and so he's like, "Let's go to the mall." And so we went to the mall to fix it because he was like had to speak in 2 hours. And between the parking lot and the computer store, he got pitched like 30 times. Hey, Kevin, you know, and and the most common question I hear people ask him is, "Are you a jerk, man?" Or and his answer is his first episode of Shark Tank. He had his mentor there, and he told the investor, "Hey, it's not for me, but good luck. I hope you go." And the guy's like, "Why did you tell him that?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "That's a bad business. You got to tell them. You're in a position of authority. You should tell that person."
Yeah.
So from that day forward, he said, "I'm going to make it my mission. If it's a bad business, take it out back and shoot it."
Yeah, don't feed
Right?
anybody that Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
They'll drink it.
Right.
Yeah.
100%. So COVID kicks in. We shoot them a text, say, "Hey, we have a business to present." And so if you're a small business owner right now and you want to get help in tax, you go to the big four accounting firm, you say, "Hey, walk in those doors." They're gonna be like, "Hey, why don't you go add a couple of zeros to your business and come back and see us," right? They won't even service it. So
Yeah.
no one gets serviced. So
Yeah.
we're like, here's a massive problem for
Yeah.
people. No one treats these small business owner or services them at all. So that was our idea, is to fix that issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we sent him a text. He said, "Hey, I'm in Arizona. Why don't you fly down and you can pitch us there?" So we get down to Arizona, and you know what he says about the numbers. If you don't know your numbers, you're dead to me. So we memorized every number, line, chart, bar.
That's a
Lots
pitch-
writing
that's
on
a
this
meeting
pitch.
You go into
Right?
prepared. Yeah.
Yes, prepared. We weren't going to be called out on our numbers. So we stand up to launch into this pitch, and 5 minutes in, he does the Simon Cowell, stops us. And I remember all of our hearts sunk, and we look at each other like, I guess this pitch is over, just like the
That's
show.
Let's find the plane.
And he's like, "I'm in, let's do this." And
Wow.
since then, he's been an incredible partner. So
Wow.
he's very active. We talk to him regularly. He's an awesome partner of the
So
business.
I know, obviously what the Tax Hive does. So for people listening and stuff, who is it for? Is it for a business owner, or is it someone that just like is a personal, like a W-2 employee that needs to get their taxes done? Who's it for?
So it's a business owner.
Okay.
Yep.
Like self-employed, or they got to have employees?
Either
or
one.
both?
Yep.
Okay.
So both. So 1099 or any kind of business owner. So like when you're W-2, you can take up to 10 deductions is all. And most people take one or two, but the whole code was written for business owners. You could
Yeah.
take over 1,000 deductions as a business owner, 1,000.
Yeah.
And so when you become, when you go make that leap from W-2 to business owner, no one sits you down and says, "Hey, let me show you this incredible treasure chest of amazing things." So they end up taking 2 or 3 when they become a business owner.
Yeah.
So what's some big obstacles you're seeing that business owners, whether they're self-employed or W-2, that they're facing in this market right now?
Yeah. So there's really 3 things. Number 1 is just the basic deductions. What we find is, because we onboard a lot of clients, and just the stuff that we all know, which is like car, house, the basic stuff.
How many new clients are you getting every week?
50,
month?
call it 50 clients we onboard a week. And we
great.
dig in. So we look at their last year's tax and we see what they took and what they should have taken. And number 1 is just the basic stuff.
It's funny. How many times have you told your CPA? I mean, I've had several CPAs. I've had one now for maybe 4 or 5 years. But how many times have you gone to him and says, "Hey, can I take this deduction? Because my friend just told me about this at lunch." Oh yeah, you can. You're like,
Yeah.
why didn't you
Where
tell me
have you
about
been
this?
for 3
Yes.
years? All they're going to talk about
That's
is
like betting
Right.
1,000.
they're going to say your
Yes.
car, your home office, and the Augusta rule.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you're like, oh, you guys are smart, but there's
Yeah.
so much more you can do.
So much
Like
more.
if a CPA is telling you like, hey, you made a lot of money, go buy a car. It's like there's a lot more than just
Yes.
going to buy a car
Yeah.
over whatever pound, 6,000
But
pounds.
if you do,
Yeah.
make sure you do it in Montana.
yeah,
There you go. Yeah. So the number 2 is that it's the unknown ones.
yeah,
There's so many of them. So someone might be taking 2, but what if they qualified for 7 or 8?
Yeah.
They should start stacking up those deductions to offset their income and keep that money in the business where it belongs. And, we pay plenty of taxes everywhere else. So
Do you guys offer bookkeeping or anything
yes.
like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we do tax filing, tax planning, and bookkeeping.
gotcha.
Yeah.
And I know I've been in your office, but you have a big team.
Yeah. Massive team.
Well, if you're
Awesome
onboarding
team.
that many people and servicing them, you got to have a great team.
Yeah.
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 How many
they're
people
awesome.
are you onboarding? Do you mind if?
So yeah, 50 to 60 a week. Yep.
Yeah, a couple hundred a month.
Couple hundred
That's
a month.
a lot of business.
Yeah.
Lots of
tons.
clients.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're making a great impact.
Great.
Well, cool. So how does a business owner find you?
Yeah, so taxhive.com, and at taxhive.com we have a blueprint that we put together. And this blueprint, 17 simple questions, and it just sends your a report to your email, and it will identify areas that you're probably not taking right now.
Okay.
I'm going to throw it out there. You've done it for me, but what can you do for the viewers for the blueprint?
So for the blueprint, we're going to give it absolutely free for anyone watching. Just go do it.
Cool. That's what you did for
And
me.
then we'll
So
Yeah,
we'll
I was
include it.
gonna say,
We'll
I know
include
there's
it.
got to be a cost.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah.
costing you something.
Yeah, it's a great platform that we built, and we want to provide value. And so we'll include it in the notes as well to have
Cool.
a link so you can
Yeah.
get that for free.
Like and subscribe. Just kidding.
Yeah.
What do my kids say when they're making home videos? They're like, just tap the button below.
Yeah,
yeah.
I love it.
So
Well, cool. Anything else you want to add?
It's been an honor. I know you're a big book person.
yeah, I was just gonna say
And
one
every
last final
this
question.
last thing is crucial conversations. The reason why it
heard
became
that.
my
I've heard that
favorite,
now.
it's incredible. We all love great books, but there's a few that you could probably say these actually changed my behavior
Yeah.
Sure.
in life.
Yeah.
And this one is essentially how you communicate with your family, how you communicate in business and everything else. You shouldn't go violent. You shouldn't go silent. You should actually have conversations.
Yeah.
And it's always the better solution.
Could any of us improve our communication with our spouses or loved ones?
No,
What do
we're
you think?
perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah, we got it all. We got it
We got it
nailed.
locked down
right?
good.
Yeah.
Good,
Even-
at least one of us
Yeah.
does.
Even 23 years later, we just celebrated 23 years. We still work on our
Oh
communication.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So good. Well, awesome, man. Thank you so much for being here.
It's an honor.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see
Thanks,
what
bro.
you accomplish and get done. And,
Yeah,
and
thank
it
you.
sounds like you're just getting started.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well,
Okay.
until next time, invest in your future.
Invest in your life.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you.